The energy in the restaurant was palpable, filled with lively chatter, the soft clinking of glasses, and an underlying hum of background music permeating the atmosphere. Golden fairy lights dangled overhead, casting a comforting glow upon the elongated table where my coworkers and I were seated, caught up in celebration. Tonight was meant to be extraordinary, a night that was for me to cherish. For the last 5 years, I had devoted myself to this company, dedicating late nights to solve issues no one else took on, and guiding junior team members, though it wasn't part of my duties. My boss, Richard, had been dropping hints over the months, subtly indicating that I was next for the senior manager role, and tonight, amid this very gathering, my promotion was anticipated to be announced. I had imagined the moment repeatedly, the applause, the sense of pride, and the acknowledgement. As I straightened my navy blue dress and glanced around the room, my team was in high spirits, reveling in the company's recent success. At the head of the table, Richard tapped his wine glass, silencing the room as he signaled the start of his announcement. My heart raced with anticipation as he began speaking. Tonight, I want to honor someone exceptional, someone who has demonstrated remarkable commitment, drive, and talent in their brief time with our company. It's rare to see such an impact in just 3 months. My smile wavered at the mention of 3 months. Richard continued, turning to my coworker, Lisa, the recent hire. Lisa, you have surpassed all expectations. Your leadership, creativity, and problem-solving capabilities have impressed us greatly. That's why I'm excited to officially announce your promotion to senior manager. Congratulations. The room filled with applause as I sat in shock, my fingers gripping the stem of my champagne flute. My throat constricted as I plastered a smile on my face, clapping along with everyone else as Lisa accepted her new role with grace, blushing modestly. This couldn't be real. It felt as if my world had tilted, and as Richard glanced at me, seemingly remembering my presence, he acknowledged me with a grin. And Kathy, you've been such an invaluable part of our team. We greatly appreciate all your efforts. That was it, a hollow gesture after 5 years of dedication. I swallowed my disappointment and smiled even wider, affirming, "Of course, Lisa completely deserves it," as I raised my glass in a toast. Richard nodded in agreement, adding, "She does a lot more than you do, Kathy. Maybe you should take notes," laughing as he spoke. Lisa giggled awkwardly, muttering, "Oh, I wouldn't say that," but the words lingered like a sting. I joined in the laughter, because what else could I do? Cry? Demand answers as to why he led me on only to embarrass me? Instead, I took a sip from my glass, maintaining my composure. Throughout the night, I smiled, engaged in conversation, and celebrated with others, all while a storm brewed inside me. When the event concluded and I stepped into the cool air, I retrieved my phone, hands slightly trembling as I drafted a concise email to HR. Subject: Resignation Letter Submission. Dear Richard, find my official resignation letter attached, effective immediately. Best, Kathy. Pausing briefly, I pressed send and finally felt a sense of unexpected relief for the first time in years. But this wasn't the end. On Monday, Richard would realize the consequences of underestimating the wrong person. The office had a different air that Monday morning as I walked through the doors, feeling a quiet sense of satisfaction, knowing my resignation waited in Richard's inbox unbeknownst to him. Initially, everything appeared routine. The receptionist welcomed me warmly, colleagues gathered near the break room with coffee in hand, chatting. Lisa was already perched at her desk, reveling in her newfound promotion. I harbored no resentment towards Lisa. She hadn't wronged me. The true issue lay within the corner office, where the man who deceived me resided, leading me to believe I was valued, only to discard me without a second thought. I took my time settling down, calmly placing my bag by my desk and starting on my computer. I wanted Richard to come to me, and like clockwork, he emerged from his office. The door swung open and Richard's voice boomed across the floor, "Kathy, my office now." The entire office fell silent as nervous glances were exchanged among the employees, none of whom had ever heard Richard sound so urgent, confused, and desperate before. I got up slowly, smoothed my blouse, and walked towards his office. The door closed quietly behind me, and Richard was already seated at his desk with my resignation letter in front of him. He looked up at me, his eyes trying to decode whether this was some kind of joke. "You're leaving?" His voice was filled with disbelief. "Yes," I responded, sitting down across from him and folding my hands in my lap. "Effective immediately." "This is so unexpected. We never discussed this." I chuckled softly. We also never discussed Lisa's promotion, but here we are. His jaw clenched. "Kathy, that wasn't anything personal. She just performed better than you." "She's only been here for 3 months," I replied, tilting my head slightly. "But sure, if that's what you believe." Richard leaned in. "You know I appreciate you, right? You've been a cornerstone of this company for 5 years. I don't want to lose you." I looked back at him, taking a moment to process the boldness of his statement. "You don't want to lose me?" I echoed, raising an eyebrow. "Yet you had no qualms overlooking me for a promotion I've worked years for. You laughed when I was embarrassed at my own celebration event, and you didn't hesitate to tell me to take notes from someone new." His usual confident demeanor began to falter. "Maybe I made a mistake," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "Maybe I should have handled things differently. But resigning suddenly isn't the best move, Kathy. It's an emotional decision." I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I sent that email Friday night, Richard. If this was just out of emotion, I would have stormed out right then. But I didn't. I'm leaving on my terms." His hand formed a fist on the desk. He wasn't accustomed to losing. "What's your plan then?" His voice took on an edge. "Go to one of our competitors? Don't forget about our non-compete agreements, Kathy." I laughed to myself. "I don't need to join a competitor," I stated, getting up from my chair. "While you were busy overlooking my contributions, someone else recognized them." Richard frowned. "What do you mean?" Taking a deep breath, I relished in the revelation. "Do you recall Andrew Carter, the CFO you let go last year?" Richard tensed. Of course, he remembered Andrew, one of the company's most invaluable executives, but their disagreements had led to his departure. "Andrew reached out to me a few months ago," I continued. "He's launching his own firm and wants me to lead the operations department in a director-level role. I declined initially because I was loyal to this company." I leaned in slightly, my voice dropping to a whisper. But everything changed Friday night. I contacted him after I left the party, and he renewed the offer. I accepted. Silence filled the room as Richard processed the news, shock etched on his face. "You're going to work for Andrew's company?" he finally asked, his voice tense. "I start next Monday," I confirmed. Richard opened his mouth, then closed it, taking a sharp breath. "Kathy, be reasonable. This has been your home for 5 years. We can work something out, we can talk." "I don't want to talk," I interjected smoothly. "This decision is final." His jaw tightened. "You won't be able to come back." I smiled. "I won't need to." With that, I turned and walked to the door. As I was about to leave, I paused. "You know, Richard," I said over my shoulder, "it's ironic how you only see someone's value when they're walking away." And then I walked out, shutting the door behind me, leaving him to face the consequences of his choices. It felt empowering. As I stepped out of Richard's office, I felt the weight of eyes on me. The open workspace was eerily silent, the usual Monday morning buzz replaced by a palpable tension. My coworkers had stopped pretending to work, heads peering over cubicle walls, eyes diverting the second they met mine. They knew something significant had occurred, and soon everyone would hear about it. I calmly returned to my desk, opened my email with poise, and sent my resignation letter to the entire leadership team. The subject was, "Official Resignation Notice. Effective immediately. I am stepping down from my position at the company. It has been an experience I will not forget. Best, Kathy." Simple and professional, yet the message was evident. I was done. Just moments later, whispers began to circulate across the floor. I didn't have to wait long before Rachel, one of the few people I trusted here, approached me, looking shocked. "Kathy, is it true?" she asked. I nodded slightly, giving her a small smile. "Yeah, it's time for me to move on." She exhaled deeply, shaking her head in disbelief. Wow, I mean, I understand, but I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. Neither did Richard, I muttered. She let out a mix of a laugh and a scoff. Well, he's a fool. Everyone here knows you deserve that promotion. As a few more coworkers sneakily gathered around my desk, eavesdropping, even Lisa glanced up from across the room, unsure whether to feel guilty or relieved. I packed my personal items when my inbox chimed with an urgent meeting request from Richard. The subject, urgent. Let's talk. 15 minutes in his office. I stared at the email briefly, aware desperate people do desperate things. I strolled slowly to his office. Richard appeared different now, arrogance and smugness gone, looking like someone who acknowledged their big mistake. Kathy, he leaned forward. Let's discuss. You're making a hasty decision. I chuckled softly. Richard, I dedicated 5 years of my life here. The rash decision was yours. His lips tightened. Look, I admit I mishandled the promotion, but we can rectify this. I'll match whatever Andrew is offering you. I tilted my head. You don't even know the offer, I replied. Does it matter? He responded quickly. We can negotiate a better salary, more flexibility, perhaps even. I interrupted him. You don't understand. Silence. I leaned in. It was never about money. It was about respect. His jaw clenched. I won't remain where my work is valued only when I'm exiting. If I wasn't valuable before, why assume I am now? His nostrils flared, and used to losing control. Kathy, be reasonable. You're leaving a stable job for a startup. I smiled. That startup values my contributions more. I'd rather trust myself than stay in a place treating me as disposable. Standing up, goodbye, Richard. As I left, packing the last of my things felt surreal. Some co-workers clapped softly, acknowledging my decision. Lisa, still at her desk, finally approached. Kathy, I didn't know. Raising an eyebrow. Didn't know what? Her mouth opened, but closed. She knew, benefiting from my loss. It's fine, Lisa, I said not unkindly. Enjoy the promotion. She flinched, but I was already in the elevator. As the door slid shut, I exhaled slowly. It wasn't just the end, but a beginning. The Monday after, I stood before a sleek glass building, my new beginning at Carter and Associates. Though Andrew's company was smaller, it pulsed with life. The environment was vibrant, filled with individuals eager to create, rather than merely uphold an existing system. As I stepped through the entrance, an exhilarating sensation surged through me. Overlooked no more, undervalued no more, and certainly no more Richard. Riding the elevator to the top floor, I noticed a new reflection staring back at me, one that was brimming with confidence and vitality. This opportunity wasn't just another job, it was liberation. My first step into the new office confirmed my decision. It was a genuine workspace, featuring lofty windows and a door that closed, offering privacy. The morning was consumed by introductions, meetings, and onboarding, yet it felt distinct from my previous employment. In contrast, here people truly listened. At my debut leadership meeting, Andrew turned to me with a smile. Kathy, I want you to spearhead our new initiative. We're restructuring operations, and you are the ideal candidate for it. Simple and straightforward. No need for pleading or having to repeatedly validate my worth. My capabilities were already recognized. I agreed, delighted yet composed, as my colleagues nodded in agreement and Andrew anticipated my commitment. This was how an ideal workplace should function, devoid of games and politics, filled with respect. Just 2 days post-departure from Richard's firm, the first signs of chaos emerged. Rachel messaged me, exclaiming about how disintegrated everything had become in my absence. Richard was frantic. I chuckled and continued. Rachel's message rang with validation. Without me, they were scrambling. Lisa was not prepared for the responsibilities, and it showed. Another message poured in. Clients were discontent and sought me by name. Satisfaction washed over me. Richard, after years of neglecting my contributions, now faced the reality. Some individuals cannot just be replaced. As I sat in my new office reviewing strategy documents, my assistant alerted me to a call. Dawson and company wanted to transition their account with us. I hid my thrill and instructed her to connect the call. Mark Dawson's familiar voice filled the air, and he warmly acknowledged my move to Carter and Associates. By the week's end, 3 major clients of my former employer had contacted me, eager to join Carter and Associates, expressing their dissatisfaction with the changes. Richard's dismantling was evident. Rachel's updates continued highlighting Lisa's struggle, Richard's internal conflicts, and fury from the board about hemorrhaging clients. I wasn't pilfering clients. They naturally followed, trusting me over the previous company. On Friday afternoon, wrapping up my day, an email popped in. Richard's subject line read, "A proposal," humbly suggesting a meeting for some arrangement. Maybe he realized the weight of his undervaluation too late. But I couldn't deny my accomplishment. Thriving in a space I was truly valued for my expertise, I sat back in my chair, chuckling quietly. For the first time in half a decade, I felt completely in control, while he, Richard, was the one reaching out in desperation. I took a moment to savor the irony. Here was the man who had once treated me as expendable, who had derided me, favoring Lisa over me without hesitation. Now it was his world that was collapsing. I carefully considered my response, taking my time to construct it with deliberate precision. No urgency or desperation on my part, just calm, calculated power. Subject: regarding a proposal. Richard, I'm available for a brief meeting Monday at 10 a.m. Let me know if that suits you. Best. Kathy. I clicked send and shut my laptop with a sense of satisfaction. Walking into that building at exactly 10 a.m., the place I'd left just some weeks prior, felt entirely different. The receptionist faltered briefly, unsure of how to classify me. Was I a guest, or just a shadow from the past? As I proceeded, employees glanced up, recognizing the ramifications. When I entered Richard's office, he looked a wreck. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. His fingers drummed incessantly on the desk, betraying his nerves. This was no longer the same smug man who had belittled me. "Thank you for coming in," he managed, with a forced grin. "Of course," I replied smoothly, settling into the chair and folding my hands calmly. "What's on your mind?" With a deep sigh, Richard leaned forward, cutting to the chase. "We need you back, Kathy." His admission hung in the air, laden with irony. "I admit to undervaluing your role here," he continued, "but I'm prepared to rectify that mistake. You'll receive a substantial raise, a senior executive title, and total decision-making power in your department." He reclined, clearly awaiting a reaction of awe, which I denied him. Tilting my head slightly, I replied, "So, let me understand this. You had 5 years to see my value, to acknowledge my contributions, and grant me due respect. Instead, you chose someone with mere months of experience over me, asking me to learn how to improve. And now, after losing pivotal clients and watching the company plummet, you suddenly offer everything I deserved from the start." Richard's jaw tensed. "Kathy, just think." I stopped him with a raised hand. "Tell me, Richard, if I had stayed put, would I be in this chair now? Would you have made this offer out of genuine appreciation, or is it simply because your grasp is slipping?" His silence was revealing, further confirmed by the truth in his eyes. He only realized my worth when it was too costly. I chuckled lightly, amused by the realization. That's what I thought. Desperately, Richard pleaded, "Kathy, make a smart choice. You've built a history here, a future. Don't throw it away." Smiling, I stood, smoothing down my blazer, leaning toward him slightly. "Richard, you've misunderstood all along. It's you who needed me, not the other way around." His expression darkened, but that flicker of panic was undeniable. At the doorway, I paused, gently reminding him. "Take notes, Richard." I echoed his past words to him. "Next time, value those who truly drive your company." With that, I left. For good. Back at Carter and Associates, our firm flourished, our client base nearly doubling. Companies were jumping ship from Richard's failing enterprise, seeking us instead. Then, on a tranquil Friday afternoon, Rachel delivered the update that made me laugh out loud. Rachel, I read her message. Richard got fired. The board couldn't sustain the client losses and forced him out. As I leaned back, sipping coffee, I smiled. It turns out he was the one who was dispensable, and as for me, I was exactly where I was meant to be.